Terrell Davis, the NFL MVP with 2,008 rushing yards and 2 Super Bowl rings, vanished from the spotlight almost overnight. But what hidden sacrifice fueled his legendary rise before his sudden disappearance? This is the story of a 6th-round draft pick who became the heart of the Denver Broncos dynasty. Davis climbed from obscurity to football greatness, establishing himself as the centerpiece of a championship team. But just as he reached his prime, his career abruptly ended. How could a Hall of Fame career be limited to just 4 dominant seasons? Ever wonder how a player the NFL practically ignored becomes one of its biggest stars? The story of Terrell Davis starts with a whole lot of no before we ever heard yes. When the Denver Broncos selected him 196th overall in the 1995 NFL Draft, nobody was making highlight reels or predicting championships. That's because Davis's journey to that point had begun anything but smooth. In high school, Davis wasn't even a running back. He played nose guard, a defensive position typically reserved for the biggest guys on the team. His college career at Long Beach State and later Georgia saw him battling injuries and inconsistency, with coaches questioning his commitment. By draft day, 195 players heard their names called before him. Denver took a chance on Davis with minimal expectations. The Broncos already had established running backs like Rod Bernstein and Glenn Milburn, viewing Davis as merely a special teams contributor, someone to fill out the roster and make occasional tackles on kickoff coverage. The turning point came during preseason in Tokyo, Japan. Davis sat on the sidelines like an abandoned tourist, actually eating hot dogs, convinced he wouldn't see any playing time. He had reached such a low point that he called his agent ready to quit. "I'm going to turn in my playbook." His agent convinced him to stick around just a bit longer. Then came his moment. Still digesting concession stand food, Davis was suddenly called to cover a kickoff. He flew down the field and delivered a crushing tackle that instantly caught the coaching staff's attention. This single play, one that had nothing to do with carrying the football, transformed how coaches viewed the 6th-round pick. His subsequent practice performances earned him more opportunities, and by week 1, Davis had accomplished the improbable, becoming Denver's starting running back. His rookie season amazed the NFL. Despite missing 2 games with a hamstring injury, Davis rushed over 1,100 yards. He perfectly fit Denver's zone blocking scheme with his patience, vision, and decisive one-cut running ability. What separated Davis from other talented runners was his incredible vision. He could see holes developing before they appeared and possessed the ideal combination of patience and explosion. Once he made his signature cut, he transformed into a downhill force, punishing defenders with a rare blend of speed. The coaching staff built more of the offense around Davis with each passing week. The offensive line, led by stalwarts like Mark Schlereth and Tom Nalen, developed an almost telepathic connection with the running back. They understood exactly how Davis would read each play, while Davis knew precisely how his linemen would create lanes. By his second season, Davis had established himself among the NFL's premier backs. In 1996, he rushed for 1,538 yards and 13 touchdowns. This 6th-round afterthought had become Denver's offensive centerpiece, and now the foundation for what would soon become a championship team. Behind Davis's meteoric rise lurked a medical condition so severe it nearly ended his career before it began. Since age 7, debilitating migraines would temporarily blind him, causing intense pain and bring on vomiting, sometimes right in the middle of crucial football moments. The migraines that plagued Davis were devastatingly severe. They struck without warning, causing complete vision loss for up to 30 minutes at a time. Standing on a football field surrounded by 80,000 screaming fans, everything would suddenly go dark. The pain built rapidly, feeling like someone was driving an ice pick through his skull, followed by waves of nausea. As a child, Davis would lock himself in his darkened room, lying motionless while his mother placed cold compresses on his head. This early battle with pain shaped his mental toughness and resilience, qualities that would later define his football career. Unlike most childhood conditions, his migraines followed him into adulthood, becoming a constant companion through his journey. During his college years at Georgia, the condition threatened his football future. Coach Ray Goff grew suspicious of Davis's frequent episodes. In one humiliating incident, Goff forced Davis to watch from the stands rather than allowing him on the sideline, convinced he was using migraines as an excuse to avoid playing. This skepticism left Davis isolated, creating another obstacle in his journey. Davis developed strict management routines, identifying triggers like chocolate, certain cheeses, and red wine. The stress of game day and bright stadium lights also proved problematic. He carried medication everywhere, but the unpredictable nature of migraines meant preparation couldn't eliminate the risk. The scariest part is never knowing when it's going to hit. You can feel perfectly fine one minute, then the next minute you're blind, Davis once explained. The most dramatic chapter in Davis's migraine battle unfolded on football's biggest stage, Super Bowl 32, against the heavily favored Green Bay Packers. In a moment of cruel irony, early in the first quarter, as millions watched worldwide, Davis began experiencing the familiar warning signs. By the end of the quarter, he could barely see. With Denver at the goal line needing a touchdown, offensive coordinator Gary Kubiak made an unprecedented decision. Despite Davis being essentially blind, a condition that would sideline virtually any other player, Kubiak sent him in to the game as a decoy. "I couldn't see anything clearly," Davis later recalled. "I just followed the movement of the guys in front of me and faked that I was getting the ball." At halftime, medication gradually restored Davis's vision. What happened next became NFL legend. Davis returned and dominated, finishing with 157 yards and 3 touchdowns, including the game-winning score. The Broncos upset the Packers 31-24, and Davis, who had been completely blind just hours earlier, was named Super Bowl MVP, perhaps the most remarkable individual performance under physical duress in championship history. Davis's Super Bowl performance represented the perfect harmony to John Elway's legendary career. Like a masterful piano duet, where each musician complements the other, Davis provided the rhythmic foundation that allowed Elway's brilliance to shine. For 14 seasons, Elway had carried the Broncos on his shoulders, dazzling fans with his rocket arm and late-game heroics. But despite reaching the Super Bowl 3 times before Davis arrived, Elway and the Broncos had suffered humiliating defeats, including a brutal 55-10 demolition by the 49ers. The narrative had become clear. Elway was an all-time great quarterback who couldn't win the big one. Enter Terrell Davis. When the Broncos drafted him in 1995, nobody could have predicted how perfectly he would complement Elway's skill set. Before Davis, defenses could focus almost exclusively on stopping Elway's passing attack. After Davis emerged as a threat, everything changed. Defensive coordinators now had to respect Denver's ground game, creating opportunities through play action that hadn't existed before. Elway himself acknowledged the transition. "Before TD got here, it was basically all on my shoulders. Defenses would drop 7 or 8 guys into coverage because they weren't worried about our running game. Once he arrived, they had to commit to stopping the run, and that opened up everything else." The numbers tell the story clearly. Davis rushed for an astounding 1,750 yards during the 1997 regular season, forcing opposing teams to stack the box with 8 defenders. This created single coverage opportunities for receivers Rod Smith and Ed McCaffrey. The partnership's timing proved especially meaningful. As Davis entered his prime, Elway was nearing the end of his career. At 37 years old during their first championship season, Elway's arm strength remained impressive, but his mobility had declined. Davis's presence meant Elway could rely on calculated strikes rather than desperate heroics. Their 1997 playoff run showcased this transformation. Despite suffering a painful rib injury, Davis became the first player in NFL history to rush over 100 yards in all 4 playoff games of a single postseason. When the Packers loaded up to stop Davis in the Super Bowl, it created opportunities for Elway, including his memorable helicopter run that symbolized his determination to finally secure a championship. Former Broncos offensive coordinator Gary Kubiak explained the strategic advantage. "Having TD in the backfield was like having the perfect chess piece. We could build our entire game plan around his abilities, knowing John would make the right decisions when teams overcommitted to stopping Terrell." Their relationship extended beyond statistics. Elway's veteran leadership paired with Davis's youthful energy created balance in the Denver locker room. While Elway commanded respect through experience, Davis led by example with toughness and work ethic. Even battling migraine headaches and injuries, Davis never complained. After securing that elusive first championship, the Davis-Elway partnership returned for an encore in 1998. With the pressure of winning the big one finally lifted, both players elevated their performances even further. Denver started the season 13-0, looking virtually unbeatable as they marched towards a second consecutive Super Bowl title. For the first time, Elway enjoyed the luxury of not having to be the primary focus of the offense. While Elway enjoyed his new supporting role, Davis seized the spotlight in 1998 with a campaign that would shake the record books. The championship celebration barely ended before Davis set his sights on something even more extraordinary: the exclusive 2,000-yard club that only 3 rushers had ever entered. Not only would joining the elite group cement his legacy forever, it would transform a 6th-round pick who battled migraines into true rushing royalty alongside Simpson, Dickerson, and Sanders. The pressure of defending a title is immense. History is littered with championship teams who faltered the following year. For Davis, expectations soared even higher. Critics wondered if his performance was a one-season wonder, a question Davis answered emphatically from the opening kickoff. Game after game, Davis bulldozed through defenses with a combination of power and precision rarely seen in NFL history. His vision allowed him to spot the smallest creases, while his acceleration through holes left defenders grabbing at air. By mid-season, as his rushing totals mounted, the football world began tracking his yardage against the pace needed to reach the hollowed 2,000 mark. Davis's running style evolved remarkably in 1998. His patience behind the line became almost supernatural, letting blocks develop before exploding through openings with perfect timing. Defenders who thought they had angles on him would find themselves clutching empty space as Davis made subtle cuts. The mile-high salute, his military-style tribute to his father who served, appeared with increasing frequency, transforming from personal homage into a cultural phenomenon. The Broncos' undefeated streak reached 13-0, with Davis as the offensive centerpiece. Even in a league designed to stop the run, defenses simply couldn't contain him. They knew what was coming, yet remained powerless to prevent it. His consistency was staggering. Davis topped 100 yards in 11 of 16 regular season games. In the regular season finale against Seattle, Davis needed 170 yards to reach the coveted mark. He delivered 178, finishing with 2,008 yards and 21 touchdowns. The NFL MVP award followed, a remarkable achievement in an era dominated by quarterbacks. His selection was nearly unanimous. In the playoffs, Davis elevated further, 199 yards against Miami, 167 against the Jets, and 102 in Super Bowl 33 as Denver captured their second consecutive championship. His postseason total of 468 yards brought his season tally to an NFL record 2,476 yards, arguably the greatest single season by a running back in NFL history. As Davis celebrated with his signature mile-high salute in the stands, nobody could have imagined the franchise icon would play just 17 more games in his NFL career. Football glory can vanish in an instant, and for Terrell Davis, it happened during a single play where he wasn't even carrying the ball. The league's most unstoppable offensive force, still only 27 years old and seemingly destined for football immortality, was about to see his career collapse in the blink of an eye. Entering the 1999 season, expectations soared. Davis had delivered perhaps the greatest season by a running back in NFL history and led Denver to back-to-back championships. The football world watched in anticipation. Could he break Eric Dickerson's single-season rushing record? Would Denver become the first team to win 3 straight Super Bowls? Davis seemed poised for both. But on October 3rd, 1999, during the 4th game against the New York Jets, everything changed. When quarterback Brian Griese threw an interception, Davis instinctively pursued the defender. As he attempted to make a tackle, his right knee twisted awkwardly. Like a star suddenly extinguished, his brilliance dimmed in that single, pivotal moment. The diagnosis devastated everyone, torn ACL and MCL. His season ended immediately, but few understood his career effectively ended that day too. That was the beginning of the end for me, Davis later reflected, his voice carrying the weight of lost potential. From that moment on, nothing was ever the same with my knees. The recovery process revealed football's cruel reality. While doctors repaired the ligaments, they couldn't prevent what followed. When Davis attempted his comeback in 2000, he developed a stress reaction in his lower leg from compensating for his weakened knee. Limited to just 5 games, he managed only 282 rushing yards. Arthritis began developing in both knees, transforming each practice into a painful reminder of what he'd lost. The explosive first step that defined his greatness disappeared. His ability to cut and accelerate through holes vanished. The Broncos' zone-blocking scheme that perfectly suited the old Davis now showcased a diminished version of the former champion. By 2001, Davis shared carries with other backs, appearing in just 8 games and rushing for 701 yards. His yards per carry average fell from 5.1 during his MVP season to 3.7 in his final year. The numbers tell a story of steep decline. In his final 3 seasons combined, Davis gained just 1,194 rushing yards, barely half of what he'd produced in 1998 alone. A player once destined to challenge the all-time rushing record finished with 7,607 career yards, not even among the top 50 at retirement. During the 2002 preseason, Davis made the difficult decision to retire. At just 29 years old, when most running backs still thrive, his career ended. "I just couldn't do it anymore," Davis admitted at his retirement press conference. "My heart and my mind wanted to continue, but my knees said no. You can't fight your body forever." Davis's career captures both football's glory and brutality, a sport that elevates athletes to incredible heights and then takes away everything in a single play. From 6th-round afterthought to NFL MVP to retirement, his entire journey spanned just 7 years, with only 4 full seasons of production. While Davis's playing days ended abruptly, the battle for his football legacy was just beginning. In retirement, TD faced perhaps his toughest opponent yet, time itself, as critics and supporters waged a 15-year debate over whether his meteoric rise and sudden fall warranted football's highest honor. "When I retired, I honestly didn't think about the Hall of Fame," Davis later admitted. "I knew my career was short. I knew the criteria they looked at. I just figured it wouldn't happen." This humble assessment revealed the mountain Davis would need to climb for Canton recognition. The Hall of Fame conversation around Davis became one of football's greatest debates. Critics pointed to his 7,607 rushing yards across 7 seasons, far below the typical Hall of Fame benchmark of 12,000 career yards. Meanwhile, supporters highlighted his unmatched playoff record of 142.5 rushing yards per game and 8 consecutive 100-yard postseason performances. "You can't tell the story of football in the late 1990s without Terrell Davis," argued Hall of Fame voter Peter King. "For those 4 years, he was as dominant as any running back who ever played." At its core, Davis's case forced football to confront a fundamental question. Does greatness require longevity, or can brief brilliance burn bright enough for immortality? Like a comet that blazes intensely across the sky rather than a steady star, Davis's career challenged traditional notions of greatness. Many compared him to Chicago Bears legend Gale Sayers, who entered the Hall despite just 68 career games before knee injuries ended his playing days. For Davis, the waiting felt eternal. 6 times he reached the final 15 candidates, only to face rejection. Each year brought renewed hope followed by disappointment. "The waiting was the hardest part," Davis reflected. "Every year you get your hopes up, and then when you don't get in, you have to start the process all over again." While his football fate hung in limbo, Davis built a successful broadcasting career with NFL Network, established TD's Kids charity, and focused on family. The same patience that once made him lethal behind Denver's zone blocking scheme now served him in life after football. Momentum finally built in 2016 when Davis advanced to the final 10 candidates. Then, in February 2017, 15 years after retirement, the call came. The man who arrived in Denver as a 6th-round afterthought would enter football's most exclusive club. During his Canton induction speech, Davis offered perspective on his unconventional journey. "I played 7 years. For 3 years, I did nothing in the NFL. Absolutely nothing. For 4 years, I did everything I could. The questions were out there. Is that enough? My response is, I shouldn't even be here." That self-effacing humor masks a profound moment. The Hall had officially declared that Davis's 4 seasons of excellence outweighed his abbreviated career. His gold jacket represented a victory for transformative impact over statistical accumulation, for moments that changed NFL history over mere longevity. Some players leave an impact that transcends the typical measuring sticks we use in football. Terrell Davis showed us that greatness isn't about how many years you play, but what you do with the time you have. In just 4 seasons, he transformed a franchise, completed a quarterback's legacy, and created moments fans still talk about decades later. The number 30 jersey hanging in Denver tells only part of the story, a testament to determination against all odds. Like a shooting star that forever changes the night sky, Davis blazed from 6th-round afterthought to football excellence. Among the bronze busts in Canton, Davis stands without asterisk. His place there feels right because football immortality isn't measured in years, but in impact. How many have transformed the game quite like TD?